All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. As we continue to play musical chairs in collegiate athletics, will some of the smaller football conferences be able to survive? I say this because when a power conference begins to be rated by another power conference, the power conference that is losing members then turns its attention to the group of five conferences in order to get new members in order for their survival. Now, we saw this when the Big East lost Boston College, Virginia Tech, and Miami to the ACC in the mid 2000s, which resulted in them raiding Conference USA as they were able to get Louisville, Cincinnati, and South Florida to join them. But this was not enough to help the Big East survive, as by 2011, Pitt and Syracuse were ready to leave for the ACC. West Virginia would soon follow suit and heading to the Big 12. It was a whole mess, including Rutgers going to the Big 10. And before you knew it, the Big East was ready to cease operations as far as being a football conference. Now, West Virginia going to the Big 12, along with TCU joining them there, that came on the heels of the Big 12 losing Texas A&M and Missouri to the SEC, Nebraska to the Big 10, and Colorado to the Pac-12. And most recently with the Big 12, they're set to lose both Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC after this year. And in doing so, to counter this, the Big 12 feasted on the American Athletic Conference in order for their survival, as they're bringing in Cincinnati, Houston, and Central Florida this year, along with independent BYU. Now, the Pac 12 is also in survival mode as they're set to lose both USC and UCLA next year. And in the process, the Pac 12 is also seeking a new television deal, and if they're not able to get it done to the point that it's going to suit their remaining 10 members, the Pac 12 has to face the fact that, both the Big 10 and Big 12 could be there chomping at the bit, ready to pick over the schools that are left. Now, there are rumors that the Pac 12 is potentially targeting SMU of the American and San Diego State of the Mountain West as potential replacements for USC and UCLA, as the Pac 12 is clearly in survival mode. Now, the Big East and American, because basically the American at first was a de facto Big East, but they've both been rated over the years by the Power Five conferences, which subsequently has also done damage to Conference USA as well as the Sun Belt and others, because it's a chain reaction. The big conferences take from the medium conferences, and the medium conferences take from the smaller conferences, if you will, as everybody is always in survival mode now. And as so many group of five members face the harsh reality of their conferences being rated by the big boys, what can they do in order to survive? I mean, it's very tough right now because the NILs are a game changer. And I think the NILs, it's not going to make it easier on a group of five because the gap is already big between the haves and the have nots. And this is only going to make that gap bigger. And on top of that, this impending 12-team playoff, is going to see the group of five, yes, get a seat at the table. But this tournament, two 16-team conferences set to debut next year with the SEC and the Big Ten. It's only going to be a matter of time before others follow suit, along with the fact that, and I've said this before and I'm going to say it again right now, and I'll continue to say it. It's not that far down the road before you're going to see a 20-team college football conference. Now, if the Pac 12, for an example, is able to hold on potentially with SMU and San Diego State, don't be surprised to see the Big 12 go after other Mountain West schools such as Boise and Fresno, which would further hinder the Mountain West going forward if that were to happen. There are so many things working against a group of five right now. The 9-team conference schedules, and of course, the Big Ten has rolled this out. The Pac 12 has rolled it out. The Big 12 has rolled it out. The SEC, they're soon not going to have a choice but to follow suit as well, even though, there's some resistance, from that conference as of right now on it. But the thing is, the 9-team conference schedule hurts the group of five because some of these schools and then some of the D2 and D3 schools, you know, especially with the D2 and D3 schools, one of these trips to face one of these Power Five schools, could, basically take care of their athletic department for the entire year, if not like most of the budget. And the 9-team schedule, that takes one of those games away. And then now we're also seeing the Power Five conference schools facing each other at least once in a non-conference game because teams want to get that resume up for the postseason. So, with that said, that's also taking away from the group of five as well as D2 and D3 schools as well. So, at the end of the day, will the group of five be able to survive? I'm going to say yes, but it's not going to be easy. I think what's going to happen is the group of five is really going to have to pool their resources together. And I'll tell you like this, it's going to be tougher, especially once you see, or once you continue to see rather, these Power Five conferences get bigger and bigger. Because let's just say, for the sake of argument, that San Diego State and SMU go to the Pac-12, then it's a situation with the Mountain West. For an example, Fresno State could be out there, Boise State could be out there, and you have a Big 12 led by Commissioner Brett Yormark that really wants to have a coast to coast conference. And of course, those schools are going to be very enticing. If the Pac 12 were to, really fold, let's say if they don't get a TV deal that keeps everybody happy. And for example, Oregon and Washington jump ship and go to the Big Ten. Utah, Arizona State, and Colorado go to the Big 12. Those other four schools, they're going to have to merge with the Mountain West, or what remains of the Mountain West. We don't know. But with that said, would that Mountain West Pac-12 merger, hypothetically speaking, be looked at as still being a Power Five or a Group of Five? If when more teams continue to go to these power conferences, what's going to happen with the other groups? I mean, you look at the American right now. Memphis has basically, been trying their hardest to get into the Big 12. They haven't got the invite yet, and apparently, according to some rumors, Memphis is really not on the Big 12's radar. But I'll tell you like this, if some of these ACC schools feel like they can get out of their grants of rights in order to get to the SEC, for an example, and the SEC would then become an 18 or 20 team conference, I guarantee you that a school like Memphis would look very appealing to the Atlantic Coast Conference. And this is going to go on and on and on because as the American loses schools, they're going to try to go back to Conference USA. As Conference USA, loses schools, what's going to happen with them in the Sun Belt, and so many other things. And it's just unfortunate. And like I've said before, this is what happens when you don't have a legitimate governing body to keep everybody in check and happy at the pro levels, regardless, baseball, football, basketball, you name it. The TV contracts are spread out. There's revenue sharing, you name it. But as long as a school president, whomever, sees that he can get more money, he or she can get more money for their program from another conference as opposed to the conference that they're in right now, schools are always going to look to jump ship. And that is the problem. So I really think at the end of the day, the best thing for the group of five, they got to pool their resources together. They know that they're fighting an uphill battle, but if they work together and they go into full survival mode, maybe this thing can happen. But it's gonna be tough because, like I said, this gap between the haves and have-nots in college football is only going to continue to get bigger. And it's really trying to see the best way to say it, but it's just so difficult for them to deal with. And it's the unfortunate side of the business. And yes, indeed, it is a business. So going forward, let's see what happens with the group of five. Got to keep your eyes on what happens with the Pac-12, potentially with San Diego State and SMU, because again, that could be the next domino to fall for so many other conferences around college athletics. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365 that you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I'm signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.